So we're inspired by, I guess, where we are. For me, I'm based in the Middle East, where we're hospitality interior designers. We'll talk about that in a little bit of detail. So, and then we'll describe on why we're talking about this particular topic. So it's supposed to be a bit of fun. So Wells International, we're hospitality interior designers. We are, and I'm here with my colleague Maria as well, who's based in Barcelona. We design hotels all over the world. We work with all of the great operators and clients, and even some of our esteemed colleagues yesterday in Saudi. I'm based in Riyadh myself. We design stories. This is our sort of mantra, if you will. And feel free to have a look at our website, wells.international. You'll get an understanding of the kinds of projects that we've worked on in different parts of the world. But we focus on hotels, F&B, spa and wellness, and of course, bespoke collections, etc. I think the thing that we wanted to share with you is this kind of 5-word pitch. This describes us, and we share this to all of our clients. And we believe in research-led design. We ultimately care about how our design process mirrors theatre. We don't think anyone else does this in our industry. But also it's about creating transformational experiences through that sort of process. Which brought me to, so I'll just go back one slide here. Bit of a lag here. So I was inspired by coming to Barcelona. We've just recently bought property here. We love this place so much. It's my 3rd trip here this year. And we have some of our designers who are based here. So I thought, what's relevant in a conversation, a very small presentation? And you look at the beautiful colour, it's a vivacious place. Obviously, so much culture here and colour, as I mentioned, but I was trying to drill down to one particular topic, which I thought might be relevant. So our presentation today is Make Like Tapas. I laughed at and looked at the schedule for the 2 days. It's probably the weirdest topic name when we're looking at very serious and interesting kind of topics, but I'll explain what it means. So our creative process, the making part, we all know this, we're designers and architects as well. So this is about, for us, putting parts together. That's the easy part, so that's the make. But the tapas, I was having a really interesting dinner the other night with some people who are from here, and they said to me, and this quote, "Justin, there's no need to order all the tapas at once." So I thought, okay. I said, but why is that? And they said, well, it's a process. It's about experiencing each of the plates and each of the flavours, etc. And I said, so you're telling me tapas is a process? And I said, well, yeah, So I thought, okay, that makes sense then. So think about, we're talking about design and creativity and also the process. So that's our topic. So we wanted to show you a kind of behind the scenes tour about how we work. And we're the guys who get phone calls from operators and clients around the world to do the stuff outside of the box. In fact, we don't even colour outside the box. We grab the piece of paper and throw it out the window, So we want to give you an A to Z tour of our creative process, using all of the food analogies that we could possibly think about. So for us, this is about a chef's table view about how we do things. So starting from A, and this is a hot topic. Even last night at the dinner, we were talking about the business model of hospitality design in the future. So our company is based all over the world. We are fully remote, work from anywhere, not work from home, anywhere. Maria is a good example of that, who's based here. And we're in the same league as companies like Amazon and Siemens and Ford. There's some globally acknowledged companies. Of course, we're not that size. But they've accepted the idea of being based all over the world has advantages. And of course, now we're at a workforce shortage in different sort of industries. For us, this is the main thing. We give so much more added value to our clients and operator clients because we get better access to supply chain. We work around the clock. I've run companies in the Middle East where we could hardly find design talent. Everyone was looking for the same designers. Now we can work with the best designers in the world, no matter where they are. And I've got a good example, Martin, who's based in London. He wants to be in Spain 1 week every month. And that's perfect. But if you've got a studio and expect everyone to come to the same studio, 9 to 6 or 8 to 7, whatever the time is, it doesn't really create that flexibility. So that's the world we're in at the moment. So that's our business model, sort of working from anywhere. As a process, and I promise this is easy, digestible sort of content, just lovely images. So it's first thing in the morning, so nothing too heavy. But our process in any hotel, this is the W Hotel I designed in Abu Dhabi. It's the biggest W hotel in the world. So we always start with one thing. What's the big idea? It's a basic concept, but really is how the world will remember this particular hotel. It's really important. For us, mirage was the word, the one single word, and we do this for all W hotels, but it's really important. For us, it's research-based. So the world has a perception of the Middle East, the culture, etc. But when you reveal it, and a little bit of the story of the gentleman yesterday about Alula and Ian and Red Sea, once you dig a bit deeper, it's a really, really interesting culture. It's very rich. It's full of great storytelling as well. So there's a great unveiling. So for us, the idea was about not everything appears as it seems. So that was mirage. So we always start with the B is for the big idea. C, this is an iconic image that's in the media a lot at the moment. It's we're the only designers in the world to do Porsche Design Hotel, and it's an ongoing process we're working on. In fact, I've got a call this afternoon about it. But I wanted to show you an example of how we think our creative process starts. We think about things like classic cinema. This is a famous film, I think it's 1968, Dr. Strangelove. I think it's a Stanley Kubrick film from memory, and Woody Allen. And this image, the images on the top, is this iconic scene of the war room scene. So all these world leaders are coming together and they're trying to work out how to sort this big situation out. What we like about this scene is what it means in terms of we're all sitting around the table, we're all equal. The lovely lighting effect, light shining down, so it's a voluminous space. And it inspired us for the image on the bottom as the main arrival part of Steigenberger Porsche Design Hotel. We call it the Platz, obviously a homage to the public square in Germany. But we just want to give you guys some insight into how we think. We're a little bit crazy, but we like this because we don't play on Pinterest. We look for all different mediums. And this is just one example through old cinema. We think it's really interesting. Because obviously this topic's a little about the Middle East and Saudi Arabia. This is one of our projects which is under construction at the moment. One of the Giga developers, DGDA, it's in Riyadh. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. For us, this is probably going to be the first building completed, actually, probably about 3 months from now. And the idea here is about working with Najdi architecture. So we're doing different kinds of experiential buildings as well. We care about ethical sourcing, ethical sourcing, we try to talk something interesting. But for us, truly, this goes through F&B, it goes through wellness as well. It obviously goes through our interior design practice. In modern days, we're in this kind of Netflix economy, if you will. So for us, even contemporary video is inspiring. The images on the top are from a Midnight at Para Palace, but it's about the lighting effect. The image when she arrived, the idea of that beautiful backlit. So we think about this to inspire lighting effect. We work with lighting designers, and we use even very contemporary kind of mediums like Netflix and modern cinema as well. El Nacional, obviously, this is a place that I love. It's very close to here. And for us, this image on the bottom is garage. It's called Food Garage. And as a working concept of F&B, it's about creating multi-purpose concepting. For us, we were inspired by this particular place here in Barcelona, and we're actually using this in a lot of different kinds of projects around the world. This is our precinct, so garage is really important. House of Beats is a very new brand of hotel we've created. The first one is going to be in Hamburg, then the next one's in Milan, and another one's going to be in Shanghai. It's a brand that we've created that's it's upper scale, very lifestyle leading. It's local art, music is the underpinning as well, and fashion. For us, it's playing into collaboration of different sorts of brands, etc., and a live streaming of events from different hotels to different hotels around the world as well. Our if and how process. So when we think about our research, we're just explaining what the heck is if and how for us. If this is important, how do we apply it? Really basic, right? So the image on the top, the idea of the selfie ring, obviously this big vanity, the concept around this sort of culture, at the moment in the sort of social media sense. How does that apply into the interior design? So we sort of look at those interesting kind of lighting effects, and you'll see that in a second when I show you another image on another slide as well. We do it for social context, we do it for historical context as well, and the idea that we create a huge body of research that is ultimately the client can understand our thought process. We do it for every particular project. In hospitality, ultimately, even coming here in Barcelona, it's about creating journeys. In luxury, it's absolutely prevalent. It happens before you arrive and check in. Obviously, we go well beyond that to create loyalty. And we think about creating storied arrivals, the idea there's a sequencing. So I like the idea of thinking about how you arrive into a hotel. It's about a song. You listen to music and it resonates deeply when you start at the beginning, not in the middle of the song. So if you hop in the car and there's music on the radio already, it doesn't feel the same way. Bohemian Rhapsody, classic story. There's a story to be told, and so the way you sequence into a hotel, we think is important. And we think about that staging and curation the same way as a part of a story for each of our guests as well. We do collaborations with music artists, DJs. We create unique soundtracks. I don't think many other consultants are doing this. It's, in a way, how we promote our concept. We tell a client, you can show a static image, a rendering, but it doesn't have sound, it doesn't actually have energy. So how do you describe that? But often music helps resonate in that same way. So we do that as a part of our process. If you've ever read a script, so literature is important for us. Scripts are very descriptive by nature, but actually we use this as a lot of a research tool as well. Books, narratives, poems, etc. We like script writing as part of our process, so we use scripts as examples of our creative process. Our company is founded based on one manifesto, as I said, how we believe design mirrors theatre. There's 4 elements. There's ultimately about creating a script, which is the image on the left, that creative process, that concepting. The second image, as you've just seen the idea from Dr. Strangelove, about scenes and scenography, really important for us because these are the big decisions that we make, the big materialisation and the big inspiration. Actors are important, that's the service. When you go to a hotel, how are you greeted? How are they dressing? How can they service you? Where's the barriers to entry? And fourth is the audience. There's no great performance without an audience. So we're the guests, we're the audience. So we have a discerning taste about how we like service to be. Nourishment, important for us. And wellness, I think this is obviously a prevalent trend in terms of a holistic approach. And for us, we do a lot of research with indigenous products, indigenous ingredients. I want to know that I'm going to a spa in Spain versus a spa in Tokyo. I need to get some influence of the location. So we believe nourishment is part of that. Operations, for us, this is critical. And we sort of talked about this as the actors, but the image is across the bottom. And every time we come up with a concept of a hotel, we actually care about how people are dressed. So the gentleman on the bottom left, he's the lift attendant that we come up for the House of Beats concept. There's 3 parts to him. He has a role, he has a secret, and he has a passion. And we do that for each of the different kinds of people there. And once the clients are aware of our process, they really get engaged in that sort of idea. We get inspired by mediums like poster art, I think because they're timeless, classical, even the colours, etc. And they also inspire some of the interior architecture of the space. In quintessential hospitality, this is about, I love this sort of line of creating a sense of oneness. But the idea when you go to a place, you want to feel a little bit emotionally connected. But we think about our audience, the planning of spaces. We think about multi-generational travel. Of course, this is a really growing trend, certainly in luxury design as well. And the idea of psychographics. Ian Schrager's been doing this for some time, but we actually care about the people rather than the demographic and the age group. Our process of creating rituals are important. Rituals for us are really what discerns a brand differently from others. There's some classic and legacy brands like St. Regis has rituals, but when we think about rituals in a hotel, what happens at certain times of the day? What are the regular events that can happen that makes me want to come back because they're interesting? Art walks, for instance. So this is a particular hotel we're doing in Frankfurt at the moment. Anyone can ask any staff member about a piece of artwork. They've got information, so that in a way, they're part of the art walk or the art journey as well. So we think about that as a ritual that can happen. Scenography, we mentioned, there's 2 parts to this. On the left-hand side is ultimately around the influences and then the outcomes. But the bottom right image, when we plan our hotels, and we work with our good friends, architects, etc., we talk about making big moves. What are the big decisions that we can make early on? And that looks like just an interesting kind of graphic, but that actually is a 147-year-old historical building in Frankfurt, probably the most famous hotel in Frankfurt at the moment. But we've made some big decisions. It was bold, but ultimately the client understood the reasons why. It would create greater monetization and greater opportunity in the hotel design. We like to share this one because basically when we were designing hotels like Port Design, we always asked if we were, like for an example, one word association. So if we were a food, what would we be? So for Porsche, the word was truffle. We didn't come up with truffle, but we had to sort of work out what truffle meant. So you can see the truffle on the top and the centre, but when we think about truffle, when you cut truffle, it has interesting pattern. And we can see the texture that truffle has. Obviously, there's a scarcity, it's a beautiful product as well. But the concept of truffle is just one example of a word association. We do the same thing for a person. We've got all these. We don't reveal all of our work, but you see that the one word association is powerful when you think about the concept process. This image on the top right is actually a photograph. Most people think it's a rendering, but remember that selfie ring image that I showed you before? This is the retail part of the W Hotel in Abu Dhabi. So you see the concept of the idea of the selfie ring, the if and the how, and now you can see the implication of it being installed. But we use, we're bold in our decision making, we're bold in our wellness as well. We actually think it's part of our the idea to strongly challenge aesthetic and the norms, etc. I think this is one of our great advantages. And then we're getting close to the end, we're at V, but renderings in our industry seem to sell and approve everything. The ultimate decision maker needs to see a CGI to say, yes, that's the aesthetic. But what we do before all of that, we create these vignettes. We call them installing, but the idea of the vignettes are to show how some of the parts of the hotel will be probably the most shared through social media in the future. We think these are the most important spaces once they're built, once they're realised, etc. And we do this through these early vignettes, and the storytelling is part of the process. We don't just think about the end result. We're getting close to the end. So when we say we design stories, there's two stories here on the screen. It's a bit short, it's a bit hard to read there, but I'll just quickly describe an example. The one on the top is a lady by the name of Rosemary Nitribut, and when we were designing this iconic hotel in Frankfurt, she was an infamous character. In fact, she was an escort. She was always known there. She had a lot of liaisons with politicians and very famous people in Frankfurt back in about 50 years ago. She was murdered, and they never solved the case. What was interesting, she was always seen driving this iconic black Mercedes-Benz convertible, and she had a little dog called Joe. Everyone knew her. The car became an inspiration for us when we looked at one of the areas as a hood or the bonnet of the car for a surround of a fireplace. So when we think about our coming up with stories, it's then what we do with these stories is probably the most interesting part of the idea. And the bottom story is about Thomas Mann. He lived in this particular hotel for 6 months. He's a famous novelist, I'm sure you've all heard of him. But he came up with some amazing one-liners, etc. So when we think about when we create stories, it's research-based. But then what we do with it becomes quite interesting. We collaborate with amazing consultants around the world, but the one that really resonates most with operators and clients, we work with fashion designers. When you think about creating uniforms, how the staff are going to look is inspired often by the interior design. So we work with companies like Lola Creative for that, are based in France and London. So we like to share that with people because they realise that we're already thinking about the aesthetic of the service staff, even at the earliest concept stage. Yambu is, I think some of the guys mentioned the Red Sea yesterday. This is a recent project that we're working on. It's basically an experience centre for diving, GCC enthusiasts are coming here. It's one of the whole stops along the Red Sea in the future. And we just like to show that it's all about creating an enthusiast market for the GCC. And finally, our idea of guest rooms. We always reinvent guest rooms. For us, it's really important that we think about how it relates to the brand, how it relates to our audiences. And you see examples, we never have a formula. So we start from afresh. That's a very, very quick presentation. 600 seconds, I'm getting the wind up at the back there, but thank you. It's ultimately about just showing the design process. Most people don't understand how crazy interior designers and architects work. We sort of reveal ourselves a little bit and saying we do things outside of the box. And for us, this is a great opportunity to show some of our peers and some of our clients as well a little bit about our process. Thank you very much. That was Tapas, the most ridiculous topic I think we've come up with. And thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.